Welcome once again to Auto Mundial, the weekly home of all the latest motoring news and reviews. In an exciting episode this week, the Porsche 911 GT3 marks 25 years with a new generation.
We've also got a gas-guzzling Audi A6 unveiled just weeks after the Four Rings promised to reserve the A6 name for electric power.
Plus, the Renault 5 Turbo is back, but this time sans turbo.
That's all coming up. First though, the news.
In 2017, Chinese automotive giant Geely took a majority share in the overarching Lotus Group and subsequently set up Lotus Technology in a bid to distinguish its new luxury EV creations like the Electra and Emea from more focused sports cars built by the British-based Lotus Advanced Technologies. But with two separate entities working towards the same goal under different roofs, that all sounded like an overly complicated workflow. And so, when the Lotus name managed to ship 4,000 cars in 2024, a put option was activated, allowing Geely to sell its 51% stake in the umbrella Group Lotus company to Chinese-based Lotus Advanced Technologies, the team behind the manufacturer's EVs, in exchange for a similarly sized stake in itself. Confused? So are we. What it means to us common folk is that where Geely had little control over the sports car side of things in the past, it now presides over both the luxury and performance branches equally via its new 51% share in the luxury division. Seeing how popular the likes of the Emea and Electra have been since their launch, we hope the Chinese superpower can have the same impact on the sportier Emira.
Charming, chic and above all cheap. The Renault 5 is one of the most popular new arrivals to the UK car market in 2025 for providing a usable all-electric city car platform for less than £25,000. But the original Renault 5 that inspired the new EV wasn't all about cheerful commuting, as it also spawned a chaotic rally champion. Now, some 4 decades on from the leery Group B monster that was the Renault 5 Turbo, the French manufacturer is resurrecting that same visceral and focused charisma in the EV age. This is the Renault 5 Turbo 3E, and unlike its muse, it does not get a chirping turbocharger nor a race-ready twin. Instead, this new electric blend between hot hatch and supercar sits at the top of the Renault tree as the manufacturer's halo model, with just 1,980 examples set to leave the factory doors. Under the astonishing wide arches, thick wheels, overpowering diffuser and sportified design pieces sits a thoroughly overhauled powertrain. Each rear wheel gets its own 200 kilowatt motor, making for 540 brake horsepower in total, and the ability to independently split torque from one side to the other, enhancing cornering potential. Equally helping to rotate the new Renault 5 Turbo is this protruding stick, otherwise known as a hydraulic handbrake. Tipping the scales at just 1.4 tons, all that power means the most bonkers Renault 5 will reach 62 from rest in less than 3.5 seconds and will cap out at 167. Thanks to an enhanced 70 kilowatt-hour battery sporting an 800-volt architecture, Renault expects 250 miles from a charge and a 15-minute pit stop from 15 to 80% battery. Carbon fibre, Alcantara, harsh bucket seats, and a lack of rear seats are all interior signs pointing towards this car's credentials, and yet it still retains evidence of its ties to the pedestrian Renault 5 with its chunky screen setup and nice dashboard shelf. With deliveries not expected to commence until 2027, you now have just under 2 years to save up if you want to get your hands on this limited run monster.
A few weeks ago, we celebrated the return of the Volvo estate to the United Kingdom by checking out the V60, one of our favourite family cars on the market today. But for many, the entry-level model costing just £43,000 is a bit cheap and devoid of luxury. And so to that, Volvo suggests this, the premium V90. An extended, larger version of the V60, sporting the same recognisable and attractive styling. The V90's prime selling point has to be on the inside, where space and creature comforts are very much in abundance. A nicely integrated screen in the centre console controls most of your onboard systems, including aircon and entertainment apps. Though free of updates for a good half-decade now, the system does lag behind the recently refreshed XC90. The screen's nice positioning inside the dash does set the tone for a well-thought-out cabin, sporting Sweden's renowned fantastic styling. But what doesn't meet expectations is the boot, which at 550 litres does leave you wanting more when you know what rivals in class can manage. Where the smaller Volvo estate gets 3 engine offerings, the V90 is only available with a choice of 2. A plug-in hybrid sporting 253 brake horsepower, or a plug-in hybrid pushing 310 bhp. So either way, your initial purchase will be expensive, but you'll save that money in the long run, provided you keep the battery juiced up. In fact, the top-of-the-range Volvo estate hits the market from £62,300, making for quite the pricey family runabout. With the world pushing its way towards the higher-riding SUV, you might assume that the V90 would have little competition here on the UK market. And until recently, you would have been right.
But just months after Audi introduced its all-electric A6, marking an end to the gas-guzzling executive AVANT, the Four Rings has gone back on its decision to offer us this, the simply named A6 AVANT. Getting all the sharp angles and attractive features of the streamlined electric A6, but adding exhaust tailpipes and a front grille, as you'd expect from an internal combustion engine, this new model is essentially a longer version of the A5. That being said, a large diffuser on the rear end reminds us more of the long-lasting line of RS6 models, a nameplate we hope to hear burbling away once more in the not-so-distant future, now that the A6 has returned to internal combustion. It gets a nice rear overhang, making for a spacious four-legged friend welcoming boot and a bright cabin, thanks to the larger windows versus smaller Audis of the saloon body shape variety. Much like the V90, this new A6 Avant is all about the utmost comfort inside, with tech like automatic 4-zone climate control, high-quality Bang & Olufsen speakers in the front headrests, and this blinding panoramic array of screens stretching across the dashboard. But it isn't just inside that the A6's tech sets it apart from its stablemates, as reinforced sound insulation plus rear wheel steering makes it a more livable extended estate car than other offerings. Powering the newest German wagon is a new 48-volt mild hybrid powertrain mated to either a petrol-burning 3-litre straight 6 or entry-level 2-litre 4-pot in either diesel or petrol denominations. Good for 365 and 200 brake horsepower respectively, they're all about optimising low-speed fuel efficiency as the hybrid system's electric motor takes over at low speeds when parking and pulling away. The result being around 35 miles per gallon on combined routes despite commendable performance. Obviously, fuel economy can't rival the plug-in hybrid-only Volvo V90, but that does also mean that the Audi is a fair bit cheaper than its Swedish rival, starting from £52,500. That's nearly £10,000 less than the Volvo. And when it comes with all this luxury inside, we think the choice is easily made.
After the break, BMW shows off the pinnacle of electric luxury SUV. Welcome back. Coming up, the Porsche 911 grows a wing and a roll cage and goes all out on track.
With the market getting excited about the cheaper end of the spectrum dropping below the £25,000 mark, it's fair to say that the electric vehicle is still out of reach for the majority of consumers. Well, as we discovered at last year's Paris Motor Show, that is where LEAPMOTOR, the latest addition to the Stellantis group, comes in, notably with this. Dubbed the T03, it sits among not only the cheapest EVs on the market, but with pricing now announced for the UK, it's actually one of the most affordable models available today. In fact, this diminutive little Econobox is available from £16,000. Evidently, you don't get a large car for that money, the T03 very much presenting as a compact city car. But with 4 doors, and as we found back at the car's Parisian launch, 4 spacious seats, it's all you need for the day-to-day. Equally, the new LEAPMOTOR entry point is far from lavish inside. Seat, steering wheel, drivetrain controls and a small screen for connecting your phone is about all you get on board, and the cherry on the cake is the model's, shall we say, simple build. Open and close the doors, play around with your seat position or get a bit rough with loading kids or shopping, and you'll notice a slight tinniness to the T03 which isn't the most confidence-inspiring in our opinion.
Also part of the Stellantis group, and so making the most of its vast dealership network and popular customer service, is the Citroën C3. And whilst its electric form, starting at £22,000, does cost more than the LEAPMOTOR, you do get something a little less flimsy. With its sharper lines and taller stance, we'd argue the Citroën to be the more attractive of the two cars, but it's really on the inside that the French model stretches ahead. From the driver's seat, 2 screens lie at your disposal, including a good-looking and discreet driver display and a central touchscreen, with all the features you need. Much like higher echelon Citroën models, the C3 comes with the manufacturer's advanced comfort seats, which, in our experience, are far more comfortable than those in the LEAPMOTOR. But overall, it's the cabin's general extra space, basic layout, and most importantly, the car's greater build quality that we appreciate most with the C3. Under the surface, the Citroën also pulls ahead, as you'd expect, thanks to a 44 kilowatt-hour battery providing some 200 miles of range versus the T03's 37 kilowatt unit, enabling a 165-mile range. Though in the real world, we'd expect that gap to close up with typical compact car usage involving sub-30-mile commutes.
Whilst the LEAPMOTOR T03 sits some £6,000 cheaper than its French stablemate, it gets more standard features like a rear-view camera, electric windows all-round and a sunroof. So whilst we prefer the sturdiness of Citroën's more expensive model, if you like the sound of tin doors slamming shut at the smallest hint of wind in favour of a brighter cabin, the LEAPMOTOR offers a very attractive deal.
The entry-level, most affordable possible electric vehicles are all well and good, but here in the UK we love a bodacious automobile full of bling for patrolling our local streets in comfort, all whilst portraying just how important we really are. So if you fancy a bit of self-indulgence, what car should you get? Well, BMW would suggest its range-topping iX. A tall and boxy SUV with a proud and protruding set of kidney grills, this isn't our typical go-to car style. But there's no denying that the eccentric looks stand out on the open road, and when you're paying the iX's £75,000 price tag, standing out is the least you expect. Despite the extra wonga, however, you get a very standard cabin aboard the BMW iX, pretty much resembling every other Bavarian model on the market today. Sure, a few buttons get the jewellery treatment and the seats might get a little extra padding, but from the basic steering wheel to simple dual display, there's nothing standout on this near six-figure SUV. In fact, you might as well go for a far cheaper electric X1. Battery-wise, the BMW iX gets 3 drivetrain options. each with their strengths and weaknesses. At the entry point is the xDrive 45, sporting a 94 kWh battery, powering the car to 374 miles of range. For a little more juice, the xDrive 60 is the most impressive in our opinion, with its 426 miles from a 109 kWh battery. That same AA powers the range-topping M70, which ups power from 535 to 650 brake horsepower, though with the byproduct of reduced range. That being said, this top-of-the-range edition does get air suspension for a greater ride, sitting it firmly alongside the likes of the Range Rover when it goes EV. But if you don't have the money for the circa £115,000 M70, we would suggest that the Polestar 3 is a better, fancy electric SUV, perfect for attracting looks from bystanders, all for a more affordable £70,000.
Take one look at the Volvo subsidiary's striking angles and sporty stance and you'll find yourself double-taking. Instead of the German's gaudy front grille, the Polestar gets a more subtle front feature, allowing the rest of the car a bit more time in the spotlight. That subtlety is definitely a trend that carries forward to the interior where, as is always the case in these Swedish designs, you get a severely decluttered cabin full of an ocean of fantastic materials. Thin seats mean rear passengers get plenty of space, whilst the whole thing is overlooked by a massive sunroof. Much like the BMW, tech is aplenty inside the Polestar, with all the aircon, heated seats and infotainment features you would expect. Powering the 3 in all of its 3 declinations is a 111 kWh battery, meaning that in its single-motor, long-range model, it will achieve an astonishing 440 miles on a charge. If you fancy more than its 300 brake horsepower, the dual-motor model sports either 490 or 510 brake horsepower, depending on whether you get the performance pack. But honestly, when are you going to use that on the open road? For daily driving, the entry-level powertrain is more than enough for both sprinting and endurance. So cheaper, more frugal with its energy and only marginally less powerful than the BMW, the Polestar is certainly our preferred luxury electric SUV.
Everyone loves a Porsche 911. With subtle looks and approachable handling, this is one supercar we would not mind driving on a daily basis. But every now and again, you need something a little more potent. Well, say hello to the 911 GT3, a model that for the past 25 years has provided Porsche enthusiasts with bewinged, track-focused driving thrills. Over the years, the GT3 badge, a sticker for weight-saving purposes, has sat on the boot lid of 7 generations of Porsche 911, and now there is a new one. In its all-new 992.2 generation, the GT3 is clearly just as purposeful as ever. And if the onset of electrification and CO2 emission targets worried you, fear not, as it's very much still a fire-breathing brute powered by a 4-litre flat-six engine, which, once it gets close to its 9,000 RPM red line, can really sing. All the noise signals the flyby of over 510 brake horsepower in a package light enough to push uphill and producing enough downforce to defy the laws of physics. As such, this newest top-of-the-range 911 will do 62 in just 3.4 seconds and go on to an exhilarating 193 miles per hour. Tick the Visac package on the options list with its carbon fibre roof and magnesium wheels, and those numbers will no doubt improve even further. Inside, with that additional racy option, you get track-focused bucket seats, an aggressive carbon fibre roll cage, exotic trim pieces everywhere, and the whole thing is covered in a sea of Alcantara. But the best part of the cabin for driving enthusiasts will be the choice to select the GT3 with either thick paddles and a double-clutch gearbox for the best lap times, or a satisfying shifter linked to a 6-speed manual for the best mountain pass experience you could dream of. Which you choose, the choice is yours. In its new facelifted form, the Porsche 911 GT3 is available to order from £157,300. Though if you fancy the rawer experience of the Weissach pack, that'll be another £20,000. Thank you very much.
Next time on Auto Mundial, we may not understand America's pickup truck obsession here in the UK, but surely we can all get behind an off-road racing truck with instant torque. Don't miss it.